always know where I'm headed, but I always find a way to keep going. Roll with me.
Peace, everyone. My name is Olivia. Welcome back to my channel. And today, I want to talk about something that I know we all deal with, and that is the stories we tell ourselves. You know, those beliefs and thoughts that shape how we see the world and how we see ourselves. The stories we carry around or hold on to or tell ourselves can either empower us or hold us back. And one thing that I recognized recently and have been working on is changing a story I've been carrying for a really long time. And it's the story that crying equals weakness. I want to share briefly how that story has affected me and how I am learning to change it. I grew up with the story that crying was a sign of weakness. And maybe some of you can relate to that. I always felt like I had to stay strong, keep it together, and be the one that everyone else could lean on. But here's the thing. Staying strong all the time does take a toll, and it builds up this belief that if you show any kind of vulnerability, you're somehow less than or not good enough. And I have carried that belief with me for years, still working through it. Like, I remember there were times when I needed to cry, when I was feeling overwhelmed, when life was just lifing, when life was too much. But I believe that, I didn't allow myself to cry because I believe that showing my emotions would make me weak. Honestly, I didn't even cry at my son's funeral because I wanted to stay strong for everyone, as if I wasn't the one that had just lost a son. So that's how deep set that belief is within me, or was. I didn't want to be seen as vulnerable, especially around others. I kept telling myself that if I let go and I cried, I wouldn't be strong anymore, if that makes sense. And a large part of my life has been spent being the rock for everyone, right? Family, friends. And it wasn't a role or title that anyone gave me. It's one I took on. And it was very rare that somebody came along and said, you don't have to do that anymore. And even if they tried, I think my voice, my own voice was much louder. Because I know I didn't need anybody to tell me to be strong. It's what I told myself. Like, it's really bad. Like, the minute I shed a tear, that voice is like, oh, so you just gonna sit here and cry? You gonna cry about it? Suck it up. You don't have time for tears. You got stuff to do, blah, blah, blah. Like my own drill sergeant, right? So that's the reason why I'm here making this video. Because I know I'm not the only one that's working on it, right? Honestly, that story, the one that said crying is weakness, created a lot of internal pressure. It made me feel like I had to be perfect, unshakable, unbreakable, and in control all of the time. And what happens when you try to be perfect all the time, you end up suppressing your emotions, holding everything inside until it eventually spills over. And honestly, I just recently had that happen to where no matter what, and even though they were good tears, they were happy tears, tears of joy, I I went into the situation telling myself not to cry, right? Just still trying to have control, and that it didn't work. That's how built up it got. It was like I had no choice but to let it out, even the good tears. And yeah, I don't want to feel that feeling again of like, whatever. I won't even go there. It all spilled over. And then sometimes it would build up and show in other ways, like feeling irritable, drained, and disconnected. And I can be the first to say that I'm telling myself a story that does not serve me at all, right? I realize that this story has been holding me back. Because by believing that crying was a weakness, I'm denying myself the chance to release whatever it is I'm holding inside. And that's just kind of whack, right? Crying is not weakness. It is a form of release. And while I know that, while I understand it, it's still a little challenging for me to accept in the moment, you know? And again, it's a journey. We all have our journeys. It's a process, and I have to give myself room to learn new, create new stories and new habits, and giving myself room to cry and let it all out, and do that without apologizing about it, because I do that too. Crying is legit a way for us to let go of any emotions that we're carrying, to process and to heal. And that's something that I have to remind myself of daily, okay? Daily. Because when life be life, and my knee-jerk reaction is to bug it out. I'll turn on some Jay-Z, Tupac, something, and tuck that stuff away and get in grind mode, get in focus mode. No, I'm trying to balance this life stuff out, right? So how do we change the stories we tell ourselves? Well, it starts with awareness. That's always a start. It's like just being aware that this is what's going on. I had to become aware of that story and recognize that it's not serving me anymore. And the next step is shifting my belief about crying. I have to tell myself a new story. It is okay to cry. It's okay to feel what I'm feeling. Even if it's feeling good, it's okay. Crying does not make me weak. It makes me freaking human, right? And each time I allow myself to cry, I feel lighter. I feel freer. And I feel more connected to myself. Okay? So, how can you change the story you're telling yourself? Well, here are a few things that I'm learning that I love to share with you. And if they work for you, please hit me up, let me know. First thing is recognize the story. The first step is to identify the story you've been telling yourself. What is it? Is it holding you back? Once you become aware of it, you can start to work through it. 2, challenge the story. My favorite. Ask yourself, is this belief really true? For example, is crying really a sign of weakness? Or is it just something I've been conditioned to believe? Challenge the beliefs that no longer serve you. And I'll tell people all day, if you need to cry, cry. Right? But I still have some stuff to challenge, you know? because it is okay. I gotta practice what I preach, right? And once you've identified the old story, it's time to create a new one. Like, what would it look like if you embraced vulnerability, allowed yourself to cry, and accepted your emotions as part of your journey? Write down the new story and remind yourself of it every chance you get, every time you need to. Also, practice self-compassion. Changing the story takes time. It didn't become a story overnight. It might not go away overnight. So be gentle with yourself, Olivia, and friends, as you start to shift your mindset. Don't judge yourself for feeling emotions, for needing a release, for being human. Show yourself compassion and love as you work through it, Olivia and friends. And 5, finally, when those emotions come up, don't suppress them. Let them flow. Whether it's crying, journaling, or just sitting with your feelings, allow yourself the space to process. It's not weakness. It's part of being whole. So, if you've been telling yourself a story that no longer serves you, it's time to change that, Olivia and friends. You don't have to stay stuck in beliefs that hold you back. And remember, crying isn't weakness. In fact, it is one of the most powerful forms of self-care, Olivia and friends. When we allow ourselves to feel and release our emotions, we open up space for healing, for growth, and for a deeper connection to ourselves. You are strong, and you are allowed to express yourself fully, Olivia and friends. Your vulnerability is your strength. That's all I got. Had to share that with you. I'm probably going to have to rewatch this myself, but that's all I have. I love to hear from you. And as always, please feel free to drop your questions, comments, feedback in the comments below. And tell me all about something you've been telling yourself that you want to change. And if you have a friend that may need to hear this, share it with them too. That's all I have. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, I love you all.